Next is, we have a student, I think Veer with.
Dr. JP sir, I have a deep reverence for your contribution to Indian intellectual life and thought. I am Veer Vidhu and I am from Karnataka. I have a lot of questions but I have sorted them into 4 to 5 questions. Question number 1. India is claiming to become superpower on one hand, but you are striving for fundamental changes regarding social and economic growth. How to relate these two things and what makes a country superpower?
Veer Vidhu is from Tumkur in Karnataka. Thank you for the question. Now, what is national power? What is the superpower business? Is it our dream to have some 1,000 nuclear missiles that can decimate planet Earth and then say we are superpower? Or is it our desire to make sure that every single child has opportunity to fulfill her potential and nobody suffers unnecessarily from avoidable suffering like premature death or disease that can be prevented or treated easily or simply or diagnosed early and managed better, and live a life of dignity and productivity without pain? Is it about decent incomes for everybody so that they are part of a productive society and they enjoy their leisure and they enjoy the freedoms for their family and for themselves? And to have a harmonious society where we can live in peace, reconcile our interests, and ultimately trust each other. That is what progress and true national power are about. It's not about more missiles and more military. Certainly we do require military and missiles, unfortunately, in the modern nation-state system, but that is to the extent required. No civilized modern state talks about national power in terms of military and missiles. It talks about economic growth, opportunity, education, healthcare, justice, basic amenities, leisure activities, economic freedom and political freedom, and competition and choice. It's about the quality of life. Once we understand that, we can easily recognize that economic growth and a notion of national power in the comity of nations and a better democracy where rights are respected, responsibilities are accepted. We require both. There cannot be rights without responsibilities. They are two sides of the same coin. Where power is exercised as close to people as possible, there is accountable excess of power. There is responsiveness on the part of the government machinery to citizens. Where there is fiscal prudence, where there is competent management, where there is economic growth and job creation, where people come out of poverty, they have good education and health care, they have happy lives, harmonious society, there is justice for everybody. You cannot separate the two. If there is for some time economic growth, but there is bad polity, as I keep maintaining, 19th century politics and 21st century economics cannot go together for long. Eventually, poor skills and low level of education will undermine your economic enterprise. If there is no rule of law, people will not invest. They have no faith in the fellow human beings. There is mistrust. If there is violence and anarchy on the streets, all the money you make is irrelevant. And therefore, the social and political changes required cannot be delinked from the economic growth project. We desperately need economic growth. There's no question about it. That should be the highest priority for anybody who cares for India's future. And sustainable economic growth. Sustainable in terms of maintaining the growth, sustainable in terms of ecology and environment. In this day and age, that's vital. But that cannot be sustained with the necessary political and social changes if elections are bought. If people spend 30, 40, 50 crores in an assembly constituency to buy the vote, if having large pots of money and offering short-term welfare benefits to individuals at the cost of the long-term public good, that becomes the currency of politics, how can growth be sustained for long? If corruption is endemic, if there is no fairness and competition, if you don't get services that are due to you for the taxes you pay or the fee that you pay, then how can economic growth be sustained? If there is no justice, how can there be trust? If there is no education and healthcare, how can the bulk of the people participate in economic growth? If only 20% people get some skills, how can 20% people build an economy that will take care of 100% of the people? Not possible. So you cannot delink them. You have to fight for economic growth, better infrastructure, pro-investment policies, better banking, and all that is vital. But in order to sustain economic growth, in order to have better life and better society and better polity, we have to engineer political reform, we have to engineer social reform in a balanced way, in a mature way, based on evidence, logic, and best practices and our own past experience. So one cannot go without the other, because eventually, without that, not only are they necessary, they're simply not possible in isolation. Economy will not continue to grow if the politics continues to be messed up, if corruption continues to dominate, and if rule of law disappears, if power is too centralized. And therefore, three things apart from economic growth: decentralization of power in an accountable manner, rule of law, and a political and electoral system that actually rewards competence and allows the rise of the best people and allows the participation of citizens in a very constructive way in the management of the country. They have to go together. Thank you for your questions. Please offer your comments, your criticism, and raise questions for debate and discussion. And let us spread the message. There's no final truth. We have to keep at it. We have to go by evidence and logic. We have to respond to emerging situations. And we have to understand the global practices and our own past experience. We have to find constructive and creative responses to our challenges. I'm a great believer, and as you believe, that there are rational, practical, acceptable, sensible, affordable solutions to most of our problems. But we must think of them very carefully, based on evidence and logic, with goodwill, without hyper-partisanship, without illogical approach, without excessive emotion or sentiment. And we must adapt the best practices relevant to our conditions. And we must learn from our own past experience, good and bad. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.